Have you ever known children who grow up in the city who find that when they visit their grandparents, they are not able to communicate with them? Why do such things happen? There are many reasons why children may not learn to speak their grandparents' language. Sometimes their mothers and fathers have different mother languages, so they speak to each other in a language that they both know. Because of this, their children may never hear enough of either of their parents' languages to learn to speak them. Sometimes families move to places where no one else speaks their mother language, so everyone simply learns the language spoken by the people in their new home. Sometimes, though, entire language communities change from speaking one language to speaking another. This usually happens over 3 or 4 generations, so slowly that people may not realize it is happening until it is too late. Traditionally, most people spoke at least 2 languages. The first language they would learn from their parents and grandparents in their homes and in their villages, and the second they would learn through their interactions with outsiders. They usually spoke the first one better than the second. When Europeans came and colonized their lands, many people learned at least some of the colonial language, if only to survive. Their children who went to colonial schools learned more of the colonial languages than their parents did. Very often, churches were established using one of the dominant languages of the area. As electronic media became more and more prevalent, there was both more pressure and more opportunity to learn foreigners' languages. As the years went by, people realized that learning the languages of outsiders gave their children an advantage, so they encouraged them in this direction. Unfortunately, learning more of the dominant languages often meant learning less of the languages spoken by their ancestors. As each generation succeeded the previous one, fewer people knew much of their ancestral language, so teaching it to their children was more and more difficult. Fewer and fewer of the new generation actually learned any of it. For some languages, when the older generation dies off, there will be no one left to pass the language on, so it will eventually die. For many languages, it is not too late to reverse these trends, but to do so requires that a time and place be set aside where children can hear the language being used and can use it themselves. One way to do this is to bring children together with elders who still speak the language for a time of interaction. In this way, children can learn the arts, music, and dance of the culture that uses the language. The community can also create media, including written works, that can both preserve and develop the language. Faith communities can intentionally use the language for worship, Bible study, and especially Sunday school. Schools can use the language as a medium of instruction, especially during the elementary years. All of these strategies require planning and cooperation to succeed. Old people and children cannot do this by themselves. It will take many people in the community working together. Some of these approaches may also require the cooperation of government ministries and other outside organizations to get started.